Although the mitzvah of Magid is telling our children about the story of the Exodus, as I mentioned earlier, the Torah tells us, Ki yisholcha bincha machar lemer, when your son or your child will ask of you, saying, Mazos, what is this? And you answer, B'chozek yod hotzianu Hashem miMitzrayim, God has taken us out with a strong hand. What's interesting about this is that when in the time of the Mishnah, the time of the Talmud, there was a strong emphasis on dialogue, on questioning, on challenging. And the Haggadah written in that time is really focuses on this back and forth that should exist between parent and child and teacher and student. And therefore, what we start off with we try to get a child, or anybody really, if there's no child, anybody should ask this question, even if yourself, you should be challenging yourself. Ma Nishtanah halayla hazeh mikol halaylos. Why is this night different than all other nights? And the importance of asking questions is really probably one of the most important ingredients that Judaism has brought to the world. There's a lack of fear of asking. A child or any adult, anybody should be able to raise their hand and say, why is this? Why are you doing this? We're not necessarily criticizing. We're not being cynical. We're asking because we want to know. And that's the only way you really find the answer. If you're afraid to ask questions, you'll never find the answer. And therefore, I think it's very important that the Nishtanah sets the tone for a dialogue between parent and child, between teacher and student. If you walk into a modern Beis Medrash, a study hall, you will be surprised to hear what's going on. It's not like going into a library and everyone is talking in hushed tones, but rather there's usually people paired off in twos, and they're not just discussing, they're often screaming at each other. The noise is almost unbelievable. You get used to it after a while. But when you go in there, you realize they're fighting, they're arguing, they're screaming at each other. But does that mean that they're walking away as enemies? So there's a very famous Medrash, rabbinic saying, it says, Mitchila nasu o'evim zelazeh. In the beginning, when you go into a discussion, when you enter a discussion with your partner, you are enemies to each other. At the end, you become lovers of one another. In other words, when you're really fighting to find the truth, then you walk away as friends because you're both seeking the same thing. There's a very famous saying, again, in the Talmud, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chaim. These and these are the words of the living God. Even if you don't come to a conclusion where you both agree on, it doesn't really matter. There's different perspectives. Everyone has a different attitude, a different view of what's going on. And all of these things are the word of the living God. They all represent at least one aspect of truth. Everyone sees it from a different perspective, but hopefully we're looking at the same thing. We're searching for those answers. And the Torah really is like a piece of art. Everyone looks at it and sees something else. Hopefully they're seeing something which reflects truth. And as a result, it has a permanence which goes way beyond the person or the individual that's arguing their point or stating their perspective.